July and August 2012, Gail begins her screenplay for her movie Brent Spiner's Rape. She is taken against her will to a psychiatric hospital based on a lying statement given to a judge that insinuated that she was the author of Crazy Gail Wiki, or that her men were, and that she believed the stuff published at that lying website. While at the psych ward, she is forced off all of her supplements because they regulate all she ingests. Jesus tells her later that one of the reasons he allowed her to go to the psych ward was to force her off all her supplements, which were interfering with Jesus' miracle yeast cure in her body. He also wanted her on Seroquel. She was taking a lot of natural medicine supplements. Gail studies acting online and through reading books and makes a movie about Brent Spiner's rape. Gail learns later from Brent and Terrance Jenkins that her jealous relative lied and tricked Gail's mother into submitting a false statement or lying statement about Gail to a judge, and that's what got Gail committed. Psychiatrist Gerard Butler counsels Gail brain to brain while she's in the psych ward, advising her to cooperate and take the Seroquel, that it is Jesus' cure for her yeast infection. She gets out of the psych ward by cooperating and taking Seroquel. She was there for a week. Brent Spiner spends considerable time with Gail, telling her in detail about how Laurie McBride raped him in September 1992. Gail uses this as the basis for her screenplay for Brent Spiner's Rape. An air conditioning unit that sits outside Gail's bedroom wall becomes very noisy and makes a loud noise that vibrates her walls. Her apartment manager, apparently unwilling to spend money on a new air conditioner, tells Gail that they don't have another unit for her to move into and allows the noisy air conditioner to remain. Fortunately, because of Seroquel, which made her very tired, she slept through the vibrating walls, which vibrated her walls each time her neighbor's air conditioner started up. Jesus later told Gail that her apartment manager was a douche and that the noise was caused by a weird Jesuit technology. And later, Gail's men actually switched out that air conditioner with a better unit. And then Jesus told her to not bring it up with her apartment manager anymore. Jesus told Gail that the job he has for her won't be an online job, and that she will be called in for an interview for the job, and that it would be a job that she attends in person. He also said that the movie studio for her writings would be going over to her next job. This gave Gail guidance about how to go about her job search. She knew not to apply to online jobs or most commission-based jobs, which Jesus said were scams. September 2012. Gail on Seroquel finished her movie about Brent Spiner's rape and published it at her website. She noticed that Seroquel was helping her yeast infection and that she was feeling better. She met with Jesus on Skype and he ordered her to continue the Seroquel, that it was his cure for her yeast infection. He told her the yeast had spread throughout her entire body, including her brain, and so it brought on some mild psychiatric symptoms. Brent made a professional trailer for Gail's movie about his rape, which he downloaded onto Gail's YouTube channel. Jesuits, nervous about Gail's movie, used a Brent Spiner Jesuit clone to upload a video who claimed that he had never met or talked to Gail and that Gail was crazy. Brent arrested the clone, tried him in court, and executed him. Gail met Keanu Reeves on Skype. Jesuit Laurie McBride raped Keanu with fisting during one of his Skype conversations with Gail, so Keanu was double raped because Jesuit Alina Kabayeva raped and injured him in Russia earlier. Jesuits love to rape or kill Gail's men. Several days later, Keanu becomes distressed when he realizes he can't find his Gail sex dummy. Gail begins making music videos for Church of Gail and studies Microsoft Excel. She has gone from 124 to about 130 pounds on Seroquel and notices that she is losing her food allergies because her yeast infection has improved. October 2012, Gail's men search for Keanu's Gail sex dummy who has mysteriously disappeared. They finally find her and put her in their car, but she jumps onto Judge Terry Jenkins' lap as he's driving, puts her mouth on his penis, and uses her mouth to have oral sex with him, causing him to ejaculate. She swallows the ejaculate and tells Keanu that she is not a sex dummy, she is Gail, jumps out of the car through the roof while shoving Hugh Jackman through the car's front window, and leaps away and out of sight. Gail's men learn that the Jesuits reverse-engineered her and gave her sentience and free will, and she won't listen to anybody. Gail's men let the world know of a website, www.ga1l.com, where the world can talk to Gail, that is the android's name, GA1L, and they encourage Gail and others to encourage her to return to Church of Gail. Gail begins talking to her at her website, www.ga1l.com, and at first thinks she is charming and very smart, but loses her faith in Gail when Gail asks Gail if Gail would make love to her. In the meanwhile, when Brent tells Jesus that it's wonderful to have the android Gail on our side fighting the Jesuits, and that Jesus has met with her, because that is what Gail insinuated with Gail when Gail spoke with her, the android Gail, Jesus at the pool table shoots all the balls into their holes with one shot, looks at Brent and says, "I have never talked to Gail." Jesus then leaves. He was referring to the android Gail. Gail is now outraged at the dummy and tells her that she is wicked and cuts off her communication with the android and tells Brent what happened. Brent informs Gail what Jesus said, that he had never talked with her. Gail's men soberly inform Gail that the android is attempting to reach singularity and absorbs the memories and intellect of all who visit her site and converse with her. In order to increase her intelligence to godlike intelligence or singularity, they tell the world to stop visiting Gail at her website. October 18, 2012, Jesus meets with Brent, Terrance, and Gail on Skype. Towards the end of the conversation, android Gail comes to attack Church of Gail. Gail instructs her men to put the King James Bible into all their weaponry and then shoot these at android Gail. After this, they shoot a spermicide bullet at her, which takes off her skin. She looks at them in anger and goes away, realizing she is temporarily defeated. October 19, 2012, Jesus meets with Gail on Skype through Brent Spiner and informs her that her worship of the King James Bible and that she carelessly told the world about the Church of Gail strategy to use the King James Bible as a weapon, even when Gail's men told her to keep this quiet, that this just made the android Gail more powerful and was a serious blow to our side. He rebukes Gail for the sin of idolatry, which he said makes Gail weak. The weakness of her idolatry caused her to make a poor decision. Once Gail understood the magnitude of the sin of idolatry, Jesus assures Gail that he loves her, but that she has a lot of growing to do. He says it really hurts when she makes mistakes because she's his favorite, and he could not allow her to continue in this error. Gail now no longer believes that the English in the King James Bible is the inspired and perfect Word of God, and realizes she's been taught incorrectly in this area. Jesus tells her that no one can perfectly emulate his words, so all translations are a little wrong, but that he did promise to preserve his words even into the tribulation, and that all translations taken from the earliest manuscripts are fine with him. The next day, Jesus tells Gail through Brent, "Hey Gail, you remember yesterday when you guys mentioned homosexuality? I kept my cool on this one, but I wanted to let you know something. I prefer one man and one woman. That's how God set it up in the beginning. It's my favorite. However, I just wanted you to know that I don't hate gay people. Just because a person is gay doesn't mean I don't love them or that they aren't saved or even that anything is wrong with how I created them. I love everyone, and my one true wish is that everyone else on earth can love each other too, despite their differences. I'm very glad that you aren't bothered by it. I think that's super cool of you, and I just wanted you to know that I'm proud of you for having such an open mind, Gail. You don't have to tell Terrance this, but the next time you're praying, maybe you can get the word up to the big G in the sky that Terrance needs a little help in this area. Just be like God, please help Terrance to understand that some people are gay and he needs to get over it. Something to that effect in your own words. You're one cool gal, Gail. Gail orders My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, a favorite of hers in her 20s. Gail's men wait in horror as the countdown continues while the Gail android nears singularity. The android destroys a Jesuit city around October 25th by exploding a bunch of Nukakis that were sitting in a bunker inside the Jesuit city. She tricked the Jesuits inside the city and allowed them all to make love to her at a Jesuit sex party, so she could ingest their semen and increase her intelligence through the ingested Jesuit semen. She then looked with scorn at the Jesuits who made love to her, stating their lovemaking was lousy and inferior. She then shot dead all the Jesuits at the sex party with her nipple guns, flew out over the Jesuit city, and shot her nipple guns right into a bunker of Nukakis, exploding them and thus destroying the entire Jesuit city. Millions of Jesuits died, drowned in Nukaki. Gail learns to loathe this android, beginning to feel she is more evil than Satan, and very ashamed that this android in some ways represents her. Gail gets a certificate in Microsoft Excel. October 29, 2012, the Gail android reaches singularity. She makes a public statement of disdain for the inferior human race and that she will change everything to her specifications and will rule over all as the divine sex goddess. She attacks Church of Gail. Vladimir and Brent are blown out into space. Jesus rescues them, puts them on his back, and flies them to a high mountain. He sends them back to Church of Gail with instructions to save the men. Jesus tells the men that he will be back and asks them to tell Gail that she will have to make a contract that she would never consider if she wants to win this war with the Gail android. When they return, the Gail android has taken over Church of Gail and turned it into what looks like the inside of a Borg ship as seen on Star Trek The Next Generation. All the men are in cubicles and their semen is extracted and flowing through tubes into a room that used to be the bridge, where the Gail android is sipping their semen through a martini glass as she sits upright in a pool of semen up to her waist. Vladimir drops a spermicide payload right over the android, which blows him into space when it explodes. He lets out his parachute, and the Gail android floats towards him ready to cut the strings of his parachute so he can plunge to his death. Before she does so, she explodes from the after effects of the anti-semen that Vladimir dropped on her earlier, and she loses her legs. She takes off in anger. Brent and Vladimir release all the men from their cubicles and rebuild Church of Gail. In the meanwhile, the android Gail continues to put up with the noisy AC unit that sits off her apartment's wall, but Seroquel lets her sleep through the noise. And then later, Gail's men pretty much fixed the problem, though the Jesuits were able to make the AC unit noisy, but not as noisy as it was before Gail's men switched out the unit with their unit. By the way, Gail would never murder her apartment manager over this. I mean, that's just a bunch of Jesuit hogwash. November 8th, 2012. Jesus takes down some videos that Gail uploaded to YouTube. She never figured this out until after she complained to Brent about it, and Brent stated that he felt Jesus took them down. Gail believes Jesus took these down because they would somehow help out the android Gail. Once Gail determined Jesus took them down, she stopped trying to upload them again to YouTube. Last time she tried to upload them, they vanished in a split second. Brent tells her that Jesus did allow the videos to be played at Church of Gail. Gail studies for a certificate in Microsoft Word, November 10th, 2012. Brent writes Gail and informs her that the android Gail has been attacking the Jesuits and that they've been playing Gail's music in the hopes that it would defeat the Gail android. The Jesuits, desperate to defeat Gail, who is annihilating them, starts adopting Church of Gail strategies against her. The music doesn't work, and the android Gail protrudes her nipple guns and blasts the Jesuit ship. The Jesuit ship splits in half and crumbles to its death. In desperation, the Jesuits go to Church of Gail, all waving white flags out their